Thank you very much. So, I'm going to go introduce the panel from my right, your left, and I'm just going to introduce them because I think we need to save a bit of time here. So, Matthew Gaunt, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Wickes. Next to stick up your hand, David Fletcher. Yep, David Fletcher, who is Commercial Director, Global Investment at Omnicom Media Group. Next to David, we have James Boyer, who is Marketing Director for Renault Group, UK and Ireland. In the middle here, we have Anna Maria. I'm going to struggle to pronounce your last name, Anna Maria.
Well, we keep on trying till you fix it.
Vujinovic?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Right. I'm going to call you Anna Maria anyway. Yeah. AM. And next to Anna Maria, we have Richard Brooke, who is Global Media Operations Director of Unilever. So we have effectively 4 buyers, I suppose, if you apply the term most widely, and 1 seller in the middle here. So I'll try and kind of allocate questions as appropriate. So let's start with you, Richard, here. Byron Sharp of the fame versus targeting argument. Sam referenced him, I think Andrew did as well. Is he a prophet or a madman?
I don't think he's either, to be fair. I think he's a marketeer. He wrote a book that a lot of people read and that had resonance. I mean, Sam was talking about no wastage, and I thoroughly agree with that.
You approve of wastage?
I don't think there's such a thing.
You don't think there's such a thing as wastage?
Because somebody's not buying our products today. They may well be buying them tomorrow. So the brand equity you instill in the consumer's mind will stick. Dove for Men is the example I always cite for that, because we didn't have a male product in the Dove range. We advertised Dove for Women, and when we launched Dove for Men, everybody knew what it stood for because they'd seen the ads. So I think Byron Sharp, the book, did it actually tell us anything that we didn't know, or was it applying the laws of brand building that we
reminded us? Didn't it not remind us of things that we'd forgotten?
It was apposite at the time, I have to say. Yes, I think it was a useful memory.
James, has it made any difference to Renault? I mean, or were you always following the Byron Sharp principles, or were you wasting money like it's going out of style? Or were you a more targeted one? Or
I think we have to do both. But in the car industry, you have people who are really out of market most of the time because you buy a very high ticket item only once every 3 or 4 years. So you still need to be visible and to have a high awareness all along. And you need to tell a story to people so people are attracted to your brand.
Matthew, your consumers are in market presumably all the time?
Indeed, yes. And it's working.
Yeah.
I do think that I quite like Byron Sharp stuff, actually, because I find myself in forums like Isbird talking about, come back to the reasons why you want to go and do stuff. And he talks about the science of it as well. And I've always thought that marketing is science and magic together. And so often people do stuff because you can and because it's sexy and because it's new. And actually, I'm very much, I think, things I'll say today will be very similar to you've heard already to do with econometrics and effectiveness. It has to work for me. It's about bottom line profit for business.
When you're getting your chief financial officer or the board or whatever it is to sign off on a fat 6-figure check or whatever, and you say, well, we're going to waste, the potential is that we're going to waste a lot of money because we're talking to everybody. How do you persuade? Do you have an uphill argument? Persuade them to still sign the check?
I never say we're going to waste a load of money. Actually, that's not a strategy I've ever used effectively, really.
Economical with the truth, right?
Yeah. Well, so I think we've got a 7-year-old model in the business built by Ubiquity. All our data goes into it, and we can see the return on investment for all our pounds we spent. At the top end, at the bottom end on performance metric, we know the cost of sales for all that bottom end purchase stuff. We've done that. We've worked with the board to share that data widely and get people to understand it, and particularly the CFO and his team, widely involved in our econometric process, actually. So actually, they know the value of TV to us in pounds, and it's probably the first thing they defend on the plan, the last thing they take off. So even coming into this year of uncertainty, we made the decision to go and sponsor Channel 4. It's a massive multi-million-pound investment for us in what was a time when everyone else was thinking about, crikey, do we pull back? Because everyone can see the straight-line value that TV's giving. And we see it straight in return on investment, and we see it straight through our brand metrics as well. So I sort of would never like to be associated with saying, waste is okay, but I just don't, generally speaking, see waste in what we do. TV particularly has such a broad appeal, and equally another thing Andrew said before was that, you know, the older audience, if you like, are the ones watching TV. Well, hey, they've got the most money to spend, you know.
Anna Maria, you're head of digital sales. I mean, does this waste argument come into play at all for you when you're dealing with agencies and advertisers? Do they? And they're happy with waste, or do you?
Well,
because if you're digital, are you not about waste?
no, we're all about waste. No, I'm joking. But we're the thing with digital within the broadcaster, we come a lot across of many kinds of issues and challenges. We have advertisers who want to only have personalized consumers or attract consumers in a way and use our data. But the thing that we are seeing is that television and the definition of television is changing. So we have linear television, and the feeling I'm getting is that we're trying to defend linear television. But for us, the definition of television is totally different. In the Netherlands, most of our content, premium broadcaster content, we don't use that word actually, is watched via connected TV. So 40% of our content is watched via connected TV. And then if you want to attract the consumer without waste on a mobile, it's very difficult. You have to consider the fact that someone is watching the premium content. Do you have a lot of knowledge and data about the consumer? And how will you show your advertisements? So many issues we have to discuss, and especially from a digital point of view, because digital people think that digital rules at every moment, but it's the combination of TV and digital, which is very important, and also the definition of television.
Okay, that could take us a long time. I want to move the conversation on. You mentioned the word personalisation. One of the buzzwords that we hear is talking about personalisation at scale. David, is that a holy grail, and is it actually an illusion, or is it affordable?
I think it probably is a holy grail. It's not affordable today, but that's where we want to go. What you want to go to. If you're still with the Byron Sharp view and his thesis, you know, for the panel and as advertisers, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, always on. I think talking about wastage is a little bit distracting from the point, because it's about, you know, his building that brand. But targeting is also really important for brands. You know, more small niche, and so that's where you want to go. So the holy grail should be to be able to do both at the same time. So you'll have a lot of investment in building brand, but also be able to identify where your key targets are. So you know, that's where you want to get to in the end as a holy grail. Yeah.
Matthew, I mean, when do you think we might achieve this holy grail?
I do think it's a holy grail, actually, and we sit in a business, we are the UK's biggest supplier of building materials. We sell paint, cement, we also sell kitchens and bathrooms, so our model should be that there's probably only a couple of million people buying, a trade audience we're looking after. There's only probably a few thousand people buying a kitchen every week. I think it's really interesting to context my views based on the fact that we're a decent TV spender, and we have a chunk of money we put on TV every time, and actually my problem is that we have the perfect model selling 10, 20 rand kitchens. The ROI on a personalised TV ad to just those few thousand people who want to buy that week should be huge, but the ROI doesn't work going down something like AdSmart for us yet. The economics don't work. So I think it is a holy grail. I think the delivery of it, the cost of content, it's a great idea. The ROIs don't stack up any means at the minute.
Richard, I mean, personalisation at scale for... what does that actually mean? What do you mean by personalisation? No, I ask the questions here, I'm afraid. Yeah. I have no answers.
I read your column.
Let me tell you, flattery will get you nowhere, okay? So,
I thought it was a bit of a cheap shot, to be fair. So, look, I mean, personalisation at scale... I reckon there's one person in this room that probably doesn't have a Unilever product somewhere in their house, yeah? Because we are selling products to 99% of the population, 2 billion consumers globally. And for us, personalisation at scale is a lot less relevant because we are fast-moving mass consumer goods. Now, For others, then they can talk about, having a personal relationship or a personal conversation, which, of course, I was always told that, the best way to sell something is one-to-one personal recommendation. Yeah?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
So that, that what we're talking about is scaling up word of mouth and personal recommendation. So for some, that would clearly have a lot more resonance and a lot more powerful than others, but we are mass. I mean, everybody uses our products.
James, like Matthew sells some high-ticket price items, whatever it is. James, you sell cars, high-ticket items. Personalisation for cars?
Yes,
is it? Yeah.
We
do it at the moment?
Yes, we do it in digital, but we do it also with AdSmart. We do it with lots of activities where we try to find people like tribal, trying to get to our products.
Have you substituted? Have you taken spend out of mass market TV and put it into personalised? I lost the mic here. And put it into personalised TV. Have you substituted spend to do that?
No, it's always mixed.
It's a mix. Okay, all right. One of the things that both Jill and Andrew referenced quite clearly was this idea that commercial TV is losing reach, particularly amongst the younger audience. I mean, let's talk about how does that. I'll come back to you because that's not strictly a question for you, Anna Maria. How does that affect your use of it? So, David, I mean, is this the thing that worries you, the loss of reach? Is it the biggest problem that TV faces?
In that age group, I think it is a big issue. And if you just look at that in isolation, it could look quite worrying. Where are the 16 to 24-year-olds going? Well, they're going to SVOD platforms. Doesn't mean it's, as previous speakers have said, we've been talking about the end of TV for 10 years. So I don't think that is going to happen. It's still in rude health. But that should be a real focus because you need to find that audience, and certain advertisers will be, that will be their core audience. So they may have to move out of traditional TV to find them. It's got to be an issue.
Yeah. Matthew, I mean, don't suppose many 16-year-olds are buying Wickes products, but one day they might.
More of them can. You're all welcome. I think reach on its own is reach has to be seen. Reach comes with a cost. So you have to see reach and cost together. Yeah. So for me, you can still buy reach anywhere, but the reach and the cost and the effectiveness of that impression are three things that are inextricably linked. And I'm not a fan of TV. I'm a fan of things that make
You're a fan
work. I'm not a fan of TV. I'm a fan of things that make that work and make the business grow. And actually, TV just keeps on coming back. And if we go personalised and we go targeted, then very often I just don't get the return from that money, because it's just the premiums around personalisation we find. And we do in digital spaces, we'll personalise the kitchen journey and that kind of stuff, and we'll personalise to trade and versus DIYers. But actually, as soon as you go into broadcast medium, the premiums there just don't work. And it's bizarre, because for 4 years now in Wickes, I wanted to go from broadcast TV, sale ends this weekend or whatever, to telling Mrs. Miggins, who I know, and I've got her email address and home address, because I've quoted her 12 grand kitchen. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me, that whole model, but every time we've looked at it, it just seems to be the most effective way of spending the money, is to go on broadcast TV. So, I mean, Anna Maria, then, what's the impact of you on, presumably you're no different from any other broadcaster, you're losing 16 to 24s. What are you doing about it?
Well, for us it's a big problem, especially in the Netherlands, where my focus is. It's declining, the target group from 18 to 30 years, it's declining 20%. So we've been, and this is not the last year, it's the last couple of years. So what we've been doing since 7 years is starting an open distribution strategy on content. And this is where our complicated relationship with YouTube started 7 years ago. We grew from 40 to around 700 million video views in a couple of years on YouTube. We are the biggest YouTube uploader of premium content. So 43%, and this is only the Dutch market, consists of premium RTL content on YouTube. And this is a distribution platform, a competitor. You're uploading content aimed at the youth market, or all content? Because they are not watching on the television linear, and we're reaching them in other devices and other platforms, but with premium broadcaster content. And I want to add also one thing is that we don't see a difference between broadcaster content and influencer content, because we started looking at it from a consumer point of view. It's very important as well.
And YouTube takes most of the money from that?
Well, YouTube takes a lot of things. Money, love. No, I don't know if there are YouTube people in the audience.
They're keeping quiet.
Yeah, they're keeping quiet, I know.
They've already set fire to this building once,
Yeah.
So, Richard, I mean, is you know, how much does this kind of issue about reach factor into your thinking?
I'm not sure how good this mic is. You build a media plan to reach consumers, to make them aware of product, so that hopefully they do what actually we ought to do. You've heard it expressed in many ways, but fundamentally, we need to sell stuff. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what we're about. And whether it be kitchens or, you know,
Cars,
soap,
yeah.
cars or whatever. And if they are not aware of the product, yeah, then fundamentally they're not going to be anywhere near the purchasing of that product. And I think it's an interesting debate. Reach is about communicating the product benefit to the consumer, so they eventually buy it. Now, to your point about 16 to 24s, if you're not reaching them in the same number as you were on television, and I remember 10 years ago, Channel 4 were always selling their light viewers and young audiences to you. If you're not doing it there, you need to find ways to reach people, because they're not stopped consuming media.
Yeah.
Yeah? But I think the stats show us that
they're consuming more.
They're consuming more media.
Yeah.
The stats just tell us that actually it's not a question of is it TV and nothing else. It's a question of what is the right mix to do so.
I hate to get onto an existential question so early in this session, but it's potentially the thing that sinks TV beneath the waterline? You know, assuming that these 16 to 24-year-olds do not acquire the habit as their lifestyle changes, as their age changes, of coming back to TV, that they're never going to come back.
Well, I'm an old man, and I remember, thank you, I remember that I didn't watch a lot of television as a 16 to 24-year-old, and I watch a hell of a lot more now.
Okay.
Yeah, can I just add also one thing? You know, watching television, how do you watch television? I have children as well, and they watch actually one of our biggest influencers on the YouTube app on Connected TV. And they watched a lot, which is another panel debate on parenting. But so the question is how and what kind of content are they watching on a TV device? Is it just a device, or are we talking about linear TV?
Yeah.
And I think it's a very important subject to tackle.
Yeah. James, what?
Another one is the fact that they are influencing older generations. So the way they are watching.
So they're sucking it out from.
They will show their grandparents. They will show their parents, and then it will. So it's not only a trend about a population. I think it's a way also to. This is going to change.
So it's an even bigger problem that we might imagine.
I think you're only seeing the symptoms. You're not seeing.
David, I mean, is this something that comes up with all your...
Anna-Marie, because you've got to look at the television in a wider way and not just focus on linear. So if the television is the big screen in the room, but it's also every other screen that audio-visual content is getting out to the audience. And you've got two basic mechanisms, haven't you? You've got a push mechanism to get out that content out to audience, which is more linear and traditional TV, and you've got a pull, which is on demand and SVOD. And if you think about those two different ways it's working, then television itself is going to be around for a long, long, long time.
The big box in the corner.
The big box in the corner that's watching, but you're watching YouTube on, you're watching Netflix on, you're watching all this. The question is, where in that big place do traditional broadcasters sit?
Yeah. Okay. Has anybody got any recommendations for where they should? We don't know.
Does it come down to content?
Yeah.
Always comes back to you want to deliver content that people want to see, whether it's So to your point about whether they're watching it on a tablet or a phone, personally,
or on YouTube or via
and I personally will pick a 52-inch telly with surround sound over a phone every time.
Okay. Let me just go back to this kind of central premise of this morning's session, which is about allocation of budget. So, I mean, are TV budgets really all about the long term? And if I can make a distinction, digital budgets, therefore, all about the short term. Sam and I talked about that in the session before. So, I mean, how does that stack up for you, Matt? Sorry?
Not in our case, no.
No.
So we'll use TV for long-term brand building. We're fortunate it also shows an in-year benefit. It's all about in-year benefit at the minute. But we'll also use sort of TV for short-term. So a bank holiday weekend, classic case where we'll use TV, and it's one of the few cases where we'll use both. We use TV and we'll overlay YouTube and various other things, because, again, building that 1+2+ reach very quickly is very important. So,
yeah.
So TV for us can do both. It's very effective at the short term, big bang, big awareness. I do think the trend is the thing that will kill TV eventually, but I think it's so far off yet. I think the more immediate term exactly what you talked about, which is, my mum has now got Netflix. She's on Facebook. If she gets Snapchat, I mean, the world's over. Everything we know is changed. So, so the adoption of that by 50+ is, I think, that's the more immediate, I think, impact of that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, James, what about you?
There's another change as well. The fact that even in linear TV now, the audience is no longer captive, because there's the distraction of Facebook or your mobile phone. So the actual creatives and the content and why people are looking, why are they looking at the TV is as important, I think. It's becoming more important, no longer captive.
Okay.
Yeah, and what if the consumer starts watching more linear TV on your mobile device?
Yeah.
What happens then?
What do you think would happen then?
I think it opens a complete new opportunity of advertisement models.
Yeah.
It's very intimate. Just another point of view, because we're talking about linear TV on a TV screen. What about a different device?
Yeah.
It's the great unknown is how effective is a mobile view versus a big screen view.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's the sort of thing.
Impactful, is it? Yeah.
So measurement.
Okay. Let's talk about one of the other big things that is coming along, which is addressable TV. Has anybody here on the panel used addressable TV? No? You have, James. So you've been on Sky AdSmart, have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That share has been very successful, for example, because we know that some places in the UK that share is extremely popular, and then we know with targeted adverts.
What do you use it for?
We have dealerships, for example, in certain places, and we tell the customers this is. We have that.
So it's ultra localization, is it?
Yes, but also because it's a new brand in the UK. It's been the fastest growing brand in the automotive industry in Europe.
Yeah.
We need to make people aware that this exists, and then they can actually touch the product.
Richard, what about you?
We have. I've sat on panels before and discussed addressable TV, and I've been somewhat scathing about it. And then I have to say, I was talking to somebody on the way up here, and actually, I think we've been talking about the year of addressable TV for ages, potentially longer than we've been talking about the year of mobile. But potentially, I think what's happened is we were going for the wrong sweet spot. I'm not sure that the right sweet. I mean, there are some brands we would use addressable TV in, particularly around geolocation, but I don't think the right sweet spot is necessarily the bigger brands and the bigger budgets. I heard that the AdSmart has actually bought, 70% of those using AdSmart are new to television.
Yes.
And I think we should welcome that, because there's more money coming into the TV ecosystem to, funnily enough, spend on content which attracts more viewers. So I think it fuels the bottom of the funnel. So I think the addressable TV lens, when applied to the correct style of advertiser, is quite a powerful message.
But you don't think it's for a lower funnel? It's not only the type of advertisers, but it's a type of function. It's a lower funnel function when you're closer, depending on the product, obviously, but when you're closer to the point of purchase, it may push somebody over the line.
Yeah, I mean, it can have an impact. I mean, there are better qualified people to
What's holding you back from it, Matthew?
Purely cost.
Cost.
And I agree with you. I'm pretty sure the overt objective, which is very clever with hindsight, is to get new money into TV by body. I mean, we're selling, expensive product. It's very easy to make a good ROI on advertising kitchens and stuff, and we do sell the products as well, paint as well. But it's also like, you think it would be the ideal thing for us. And I was desperate to go and have a go, and every time I look at the econometrics, every time I look at the cost of it and the efficiencies we need to get out of it, actually the cost per acquisition for the current model, I'll be better off on Google search, I'll be better off on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's pure, but I think they've done it consciously. I think it's a conscious thing to go and grow incremental monies into TV, and I think if you've got a decent spend on TV, it's just never going to stack up.
Yeah,
what we're going to spend.
I mean, it hasn't got scale yet. David, I mean, you speak for for a lot of advertisers. What's the kind of Omnicom reflection of their view on addressable?
Well, if you talk about AdSmart, I mean, that is, I think, opportunity choose my words carefully, but the deliberately premium product. And if you are a large brand, it's probably not suited. But if you are, and as a consumer of AdSmart, I can see in my location a lot more brands coming into the channel. So for that, it's a really positive.
But I mean, the change, it's going to get a bit of scale now.
It is.
Everybody's piling in.
But the point I was, yes, but it's still too expensive for most, if you're going to do your analysis between a broad TV campaign. But it's not just the addressable nature of it, it's having a connected TV, so a large device on your wall where you can do some really clever stuff with. So it's not just about targeting, but you can start to overlay what looks a bit like a digital ad. I mean, I think it's like the modern version of the red button, if you remember that, which we were not ready for as a market. But now I think connected and smart TVs are able to tempt you with the right content for prizes or interviews with the stars, or there's things that are going to grab you and take you onto another screen. Yeah. And from there, you're in a really good place.
Yeah. Okay, let me just, we are coming towards the end of our time, but just open up to the floor. Has anybody got any questions or points they wish to make to the audience generally or to our panel? I can also see there's a load of people up in the top galleries there. Where did you come from? Right. You are? Who's that? Jeff. Oh, Jeff. Hello. Where are you? All right, you're going to have to shout, Jeff, but I know you, Jeff. Make it quick. Make it quick.
I was just going to say, being the inventor of Sky AdSmart, I would highly recommend that it can effectively be used.
No, cut it out. Next.
So the points being made are exactly right, but it can be whatever it needs to be for the advertiser that wants to use it.
But they're telling you it's too expensive, Jeff, so tough. I mean, one of the things, the other kind of big existential theme really is, and I think it gets to the heart of effectiveness, ultimately, as expressed by Andrew, are the difficulties in making apples for apples measurement comparisons. And, where do you see that going? Because we seem to be at a kind of, a bit of a kind of balancing point in time where everybody seems to be trying to make it happen, but it isn't happening. And I wonder how important is it, and do you think it will actually happen? So we've just come along the panel here. Matthew.
I think it's fundamental. I think step one, you agree what you're trying to achieve. Step two, you create the right KPI, and a lot of people don't do that even. And then step three, you try and measure it. I can't get my TV measurement to match my paid search measurement, so we draw a clear line. It's cost per eyeballs on one end, or it's cost of sales on the other end.
So how is that, the inability to get that lined up, going to affect the way you allocate budget?
Because it's the one area where you're making a gut feel. You're going, I can expand this, and I can see a decent return on that, and I can expand that, but I know I can't stack the two things together. So I'm using less data.
The interesting thing is that, the amount of money going into the channels that are least measurable or worst at measuring themselves, or most measure their own selves, or not independently, are the ones that are attracting the most money. And the ones that actually have gold standard measurement systems are losing money. There's the paradox.
It is, and I have a personal view. I think that's to do with rigor in marketing teams. I think it's too easy to get run off by the next thing that your agency presenting you that's new and sexy and wonderful, and it sounds like a great thing to do. I'll do a presentation on Easter, and we'll do a great TV plan, and the slide that makes it through the board presentation is the one on Waze and how we're geo-targeting people driving past a B&Q store. It's going to do nothing for the business, but it sounds great in the presentation. Yeah. There's too much of that, if I'm honest.
Okay, David, measurement. Is it a big deal for you?
It's huge. And if you're talking TV, that's got to get to the core of it to get that better and in more real time, because I think that's going to help advertisers, look at how effective the effectiveness of TV is, sorry, that sounds like a terrible phrase, but at the moment it's a little bit clunky, and so I think something like the dovetail for Barb in the UK is going to help that to a certain extent, but that's where TV's got to get to be able to give that more real time. What
about the competitors to TV, the people who are trying to take TV money, because they're not measuring themselves in the same way?
They can, but I mean, at the moment, it's the competitor. TV's kind of held its own, and most of money into digital has come from other channels. I mean, it's starting to change, I think, but I don't think that's where necessarily the threat is. I think if standing still and not improving how TV is measured, and getting it akin to digital is going to be a problem.
Okay. James?
I think TV measurement needs to be improved dramatically so that there's not only an estimation or it's based on a survey. It needs to be much more granular, much more detailed, and we can make the link with the rest of the other expenditure.
When you say TV, do you mean the SVOD people? When you say TV, do you mean the SVOD people? Yeah. Okay. Anna Maria, where is? Give us a European perspective on the measurement issue. It's a big deal here.
Well, it is a big deal in other countries as well. You know, for us, we look at a combination of the measurements. You have TV, which is very, it can be more effective, but very transparent, versus digital. And I'm a digital native, and I'm not afraid to say it. It's like a Bermuda of darkness. And you have to combine those things and take the best of both worlds in a new kind of measurement. And especially when we're talking about addressable TV or connected TV, 40%, as I mentioned, of our content is viewed on a big screen. Just to finish this, we're used to one-on-one contact on digital. Now we have a whole family watching. How do we measure this?
Yeah. Okay. Richard, Unilever is the world's second biggest advertiser?
Yes.
One day.
I suppose I asked for that.
Gives you a lot of clout.
Yes.
Do you feel you and the other major advertisers of your scale are using your clout effectively, and is it making a difference?
Well, so, I mean, yes. There is, and we have been very clear in areas like brand safety, ad fraud, viewability, measurement, off various conference platforms across the globe, calling for the level of rigor and transparency that the market requires and needs when you're investing billions and billions and billions of dollars, euros, or sterling in it. The question you asked about measurement, I remember speaking at an ISBA conference some 10 years ago with Proctors, and we were calling there for better measurement systems amongst the online community, so that we could get to the Holy Grail, if you like, but we could understand how the whole jigsaw fits together. The reality is, as advertisers, we've been looking for more rigor and better measurement for years, because it's not, you know, in big companies like us, it's the supply chain, it's the finance teams. Everyone wants to know where the money's being spent and how it's being spent.
Are you winning though? Because I'm not sure whether you are winning. Sometimes I think you are, and then sometimes I think you're going backwards. So, do you think you're winning? Can you cheer us up?
Do I think we're winning? I think this is a question for the industry.
I mean the industry. I
think advertisers and the industry are putting pressure in the right places. I see movement coming.
You see, okay,
I see
some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is a fantastic note on which to end this morning's session and allow you to get to the coffee that I know you're desperate for. But before you do that, would you join me in giving a big hand to our fantastic panel here?